for another episode here on the 1867 Sports Show. Kyle and Kyle joining you on this beautiful Tuesday night. How you doing today, sir?
Let's do this, Leroy Jenkins.
Oh my
What's
God,
up, buddy?
he just ran in.
Damn it, Leroy.
Every time. Well, and hopefully you're one of the couple dozen of people who will get that reference there. But for
A
those
couple
that,
dozen. Yeah, those of you who were born after 1992 will not get that reference.
yeah. But yeah, how's it going? Lots to discuss. Lots of football going
Oh,
on. We got some very happy Taylor Swift fans in the building. That's for sure.
we've got some Swifties just living their best lives right now. So yeah, I mean, lots to cover, lots of football going on, and yeah, man, it's kind of a busy news week, since the last time we kind of got off the horn here. So let's get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, well, something that's sure to put a smile on your face here.
Oh,
Your
it's already
beloved Edmonton Oilers here on an
ah,
absolute heater right now.
woo.
16 straight wins. How does it feel to actually cheer for a team that knows how to put together more than one win at a time?
I gotta say, this is 100% unexpected, but we'll take it. We'll take it. And the nice thing about it is that you look at the league leaders in scoring, and there's not an Oiler to be found, which is
No.
like the first time ever in the last 8 years since McDavid's been in the league. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great team effort that's been going on, consistently over the last month and a half. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously, Cousin Stu is a big driving force behind that. So, golf clap for Cousin Stu for really putting the Oilers on his back and kind of showing him that he can be the number one going forward. And let's just keep it going. As an Oilers fan, this is fantastic.
Well, 16 straight wins. So you're one off the 92-93 Penguins all-time 17-game streak. Could the All-Star break have come at a worse time for you guys there? Like the momentum thing? Like, because you look at when they're coming back, they got to
Yeah,
go to the defending Stanley Cup champions barn out there in Las Vegas. Is this going to be a case of, all right, hey, for the boys who don't get called to the All-Star game, they're on a beach somewhere already at this
yeah.
point. So between that and then, our first game back is in Vegas, so you can get into a little bit of trouble there. Are you concerned the streak ends immediately after the All-Star break?
I think if it was any other team, there would be some hesitation and saying like, I'm kind of worried about that. But I mean, I think with the way that it ended last year in the playoffs, losing to Vegas, I think it kind of just brings that back to say, what, they're exercising a lot of their demons that they've encountered the last couple of years in this winning streak. So let's keep it going with that, the big monster that's kind of stood in their way the last couple of years here. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that being the first game to come back on, because it's really the litmus test of, was that 16 game streak really just a flash in the pan, or can we put it together with a team like Vegas, who's also playing at a very high level right now too.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaks to the job that getting a different voice in that locker room as well
Mm-hmm.
can do. Because Chris Novak, 26-6 as head coach of your Edmonton Oilers, like
Yeah,
as someone who's maybe watching them a little bit closer than I am, obviously, like I'm seeing highlights and that, but I'm not staying up late at night to actually watch these games get played. What's been kind of the main difference you've at least seen between him and the dearly departed Mr. Woodcroft out there in oil country?
I think it's just defensive presence in their own zone, which is what the Oilers have lacked since I've been a fan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at, like I mentioned before, you don't see them winning games like 7-1, 8-2, right? You're seeing them, or sorry, 7-4, 8-5. You're
Yeah.
seeing them win games 3-1, 3-2, 4-1, some shutouts thrown in there. So they're playing a more structured brand of hockey. And I think it's because it's more simplistic. They've
Mhm.
kind of just taken it back down to the basics, and they're getting their star players to buy into this level of play, and which is what you want.
Yeah.
You want the McDavids, the Dreisaitl's, the Hymans, the Nugent Hopkins. Like, you want them being those driving forces, coming back into their own zone and getting the puck out,
Yeah.
because it's hard for the other team to score when the puck's not in your end. It's a lot easier for you to score when you're working hard, drawing penalties, going to the power play, and letting that absolutely insane power play go to work. So I think it's just going back to those things. Like, it's not a difficult thing to do if you have everybody on the same page. It's just like we mentioned last week with Sheldon Keefe and the Maple Leafs. Sometimes when you're trying to do too much, you're not doing anything,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like the master, jack of all trades, master of none type of analogy. This is exactly the type of switch that's happened since Woodcroft was out and Knobloch's come in. So yeah, I mean, simple is good, and good means wins. So let's just keep it simple and keep it going.
Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, there you go.
Pretty much.
But yeah, you bring up an interesting point there because, all right, I'm sure Edmonton Oilers fans can rattle off all sorts of, blue liners over the years. But for someone who's not been following this team, take out Paul Coffey.
Yeah.
Who would you say to like the average NHL fan has been like the most prolific blue liner that you guys have had out there in Edmonton?
Well, I mean, it was only for 1 year with Chris Pronger.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a cup of coffee of Chris
Yeah,
Pronger.
but I mean, before he got injured, I don't think people really understood how good Oscar Klefbom really was. And he was kind of that all-encompassing defenseman that you can put out on the power play, on the penalty kill, and be that workhorse that you want. It's unfortunate that he suffered this serious injury that he did. It's never going to, and it's going to sideline him for the rest of his career. So now, I mean, you're looking at kind of who's the next man up. And I mean, obviously, Evan Bouchard is the big name that everyone looks at as the Bouch bomb and the power play fanatic. But he's really taken the next step up to becoming that more big the bigger presence in his own zone. And I think other guys are feeding off of that. So it's not that you need that top rate blue liner. It's just you need a collaboration of individuals that are just going to work together and play sound hockey. And I think that's what they're doing. And mixed with, again, you're getting timely goaltending from any goaltender that's coming in right now, whether it be Skinner or Picard. That's exactly what a winning brand of hockey is. Like we talked about it with the Canucks and Jets. I mean, you substitute the names out, and it's pretty much the same brand of hockey, right? And that's the nice thing about it, is that you can put in second line with the third D pairing, and they're going to be playing plus hockey. You can put on the fourth line with the first D pairing, and they're going to be playing plus hockey, and that's how you win games. So, yeah, it's nice to see that you don't really have to have that star back there in order for them to really make an impact, but. Yeah, it would be nice to get a Paul Coffey back in the lineup again. I'll tell you that.
Well, what kind of fun is it to just have a consistent hockey team when you can have the roller coaster ride that is the Ottawa Senators, where you don't know whether you're going to win 7-1 or you're going to get blown out, 4-0 in the first period already. So
Yeah,
it's yeah, good for you. Kudos to the Edmonton Oilers, one win away from tying the Pittsburgh Penguins all-time win streak record there.
yeah. Kudos to them, and kudos to us as fans.
Yeah, there you go. You can pat yourself on the back.
Oh, I've done that several times, my friend.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna flip it a little bit here. So we're going from a bit of a high to maybe not as fun of a topic to bring up, but we would be remiss if we didn't at least address the elephant in the room, that is the 2018 World Junior, alleged sexual assault scandal that took place and has been seemingly drawn out for God knows how long. Like this has been not a open and shut legal process, and even reports out today that this might not even hit the courts until 2026. So get ready for this to still be kind of part of your news cycle for the foreseeable future. But Rick Westhead ended up confirming the 5 names that are going to be asked to surrender to London police there. So you've got Alex Formanton, Carter Hart, Michael McLeod, Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote. Now, obviously, we don't need to get into the actual nitty gritty of what did or did not happen in that hotel room or anything like that. But
yeah,
just as fans of the sport, I mean, this has been kind of a black cloud that has been hanging over the NHL for quite some time now. And, let's kind of call it what it is here. The NHL doesn't do itself any favors a lot of the time when it comes to any kind of crisis management or PR handling of things.
yeah.
But One thing I wanted to also point out here too is just another example of these teams just shooting themselves in the foot and making a dumb situation even dumber here, where you've got all of this added focus around mental health and stability and let's have these tough conversations, Bell Let's Talk month and all of that. And then you've got the Calgary Flames who come out and say Dylan Dubé is taking a mental health break when
Yeah.
really they know full well what's going on here. So, not to downplay obviously the severity of the situation, but just a highlighting how like tone deaf the NHL is when it comes to these types of situations here.
Yeah, and tone deaf is right. And I mean, I think that everybody saw not only the NHL handling things in a certain way, but Hockey Canada going through what they went through, right? And that's another, bag of hammers that we can open up on another day. But yeah, from top to bottom, this whole thing has just been, just a horrible stain on the sport in general,
Yeah.
especially when you look at, like you're saying, how it's been managed from not only the organizational level, but the league level, as well as the governing body of a country. Like,
Mhm.
you can't do it any worse,
Yeah.
let alone, thinking about what actually happened, with the act itself. So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody understands that we all need to do better in holding things and people accountable for what is ultimately covering up specific actions so they don't look bad in the long run. But it ends up coming back 10 times worse. So let's just hope that this all gets handled and the judgment is sound,
Mhm.
if it's warranted, and we'll leave it at that, because I mean, I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said. People are going to be making their assumptions, whether one side or the other, and like you're saying, it's not going to happen until 2026. So there's going to be a lot of chatter about this happening for the next 2 years, maybe more, um, and we'll just let the legal process work its way out.
Yeah. We'll let it play out in court there. And I think if there's any big takeaway from this, it's that listen, if you see your teammates doing something that they should not be doing, it's not good enough to just, well,
Yeah,
not my pig, not my problem here, right? Like you need to be a voice there and let people
yeah,
know and stop these things before they happen. So we'll
yeah,
we'll
and
we'll we'll kind of leave it at that, but we'll get your final thoughts on it, and then we'll move on to our surprise guest, who we'll get to in a moment there.
yeah, and before we do that, this last thing, leadership comes with a lot of responsibility, and everybody talks about wanting to be a leader, but not everybody wants to accept the responsibility of being a leader. So, like you were saying, this goes to all levels: hockey, football, any type of sport, any type of organization. If you want to become that leader, that voice that everyone respects, these are the times that you step up and you make your voice heard. So, anyways, we'll leave it at that. Well, we are very honored to have our first guest of the 1867 Sports Show be a living legend in our minds. But let me introduce him. He's a three-time Grey Cup champ, a two-time Grey Cup MVP, a two-time CFL Most Outstanding Player, an NFL quarterback and coach, Canadian Football Hall of Famer, and the second best fantasy football player that I know. Let's give it up for Henry Burris. Hank, welcome to the 1867 Sports Show, buddy.
Hey, fellas, I'm honored. Hey, man, it's good to be here with you both. And I mean, hey, guys, thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this, guys. I can't wait to talk over the topics, and I'll deal with you later when it comes to that fantasy football stuff.
Oh man, no, you know what? It's good to have this type of thing post playing, because it still gives the competitive juices a little jolt every now and again. But that's good. So again, Hank, we brought you on because obviously, we want to talk to, you know, prominent guests. We want to bring people on who are in the know with their respective sports, who've lived, an exciting life during their sport. And I mean, obviously, we can't get any better than that. You heard that during the intro. So first of all, what's going on, man? What do you got going on? Like, what's new with Henry Burris?
Well, this coaching world, it's been a whirlwind. Because spending time here with the family. So for me, it's been a bittersweet kind of that. end of 2023 going into 24 now, where I was with the Rams to start off the season in training camp as the assistant running back coach. And I got an offer to be the quarterback coach for the Las Vegas Vipers in the XFL. And talking it over with a number of coaches from Sean McVay to Mike LaFleur, a number of guys on the Rams staff, they're like, man, get your butt out of here. Go enjoy that opportunity. And I was like, hey, I'm definitely going to, because, for every coach, you want to go through that steps process where, you do the grunt work, the quality control, then you make yourself, you take that next step to that assistant role where you're in the room, you're helping, have some type of, impression on the players to at least be a part of their process. And that I got that opportunity being in Jacksonville last season, being able to be an assistant quarterback coach and quality control, working with Trevor Lawrence and CJ Beathard, EJ Perry, and just assisting Mike McCoy at that time. And but yeah, once I got the opportunity to actually run my own room, I was like, this is going to be awesome. And Anthony Blevins, a good friend of mine who's with the Giants, gave me that call. For me, it was like, just a gift from heaven. It's like, I've been wanting this. I've been working my butt off, sacrificing time for the family. But then the XFL, USFL said, hey,
Right.
guys, let's get together and make one league. Hey, forget about that team in Vegas. You know what I mean? Our team got dissolved, unfortunately, when it came to putting the whole UFL together, which is what it's called now. So unfortunately, right now, I'm just in the coaches portal. I guess that's what we call it as a free agent.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, that nil money's not too bad. So,
I see. It's unfortunate. It's just not making plays for coaches. We got to make best friends. We got to do this, got to do that, just to actually get paid. So right now, I'm just kind of going through those motions, making sure all the material's set up, enjoying the time with the family, my wife, and my two boys. And when the phone rings, making sure I'm ready to go for any interview. Because again, it can happen. And one morning they can call you, and then that afternoon you're on the phone or on Zoom doing an interview with one of the head coaches in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's how quickly things happen.
Oh, for sure. And I think we've seen that since the regular season ended. You see all the flip over that's happened with, team after team after team. And we've still got some, coordinator positions starting to be filled. We've still got some head coaching positions starting to be filled. So obviously we know that, it's a small community, like you're saying. So, hey, let's get one of these opportunities happening. So if any of you NFL coaches are listening to this Canadian podcast, we encourage you, bring on Henry Burris. And I was going to say too, I think probably the worst part about that was, you were going to Vegas. So that would have probably been the most anticipated thing during the whole process. But
I know we could have done the show there, guys. We could have
done it in Vegas. Exactly. I'm going to get Dwayne Johnson on the horn right now, and I'm going to give him a piece of my mind.
I was going to say, you can tell you spent a few winters up in the CFL there, because it's Jacksonville, it's LA, it's Vegas. It's all warm weather climates you're heading to.
I know. It's funny. Ever since I left home, left high school, left Oklahoma, I've been in places where it's been cold, and my parents have been like, man, you got to get somewhere where it's warm. We were in minus 30-degree temperature watching all these Grey Cups. You're in Chicago, you're in Green Bay. And then, of course, I come back, start coaching. I'm back in Chicago. They're like, you got to get somewhere where we can come watch you. We can wear shorts and short sleeve shirts, So for me, it's like, okay, unless if it's Buffalo, hey, Josh Allen, hey, that's a different situation right there. You got to go there. But typically, we're focusing on the warm weather climates right now, as far as the destinations.
I think everybody would probably say that same assumption. I mean, you look at, like you're saying, minus 30-degree weather. You're playing in Saskatchewan. You're dreaming about those days where it's like, man, I hope that Vegas gets a football team eventually, so I can become a coach there. So
exactly.
But obviously you're mentioning family, and I know you and I have talked about this a few times, but you've been on the recruiting trail right now with a specific member of your family. So what's that been like with the old man, kind of back out in the college road trip and getting to experience that with your young lad?
You know what? I mean, it's amazing that things happen for a reason. And to me, that's the sweet part about what I've had to go through. Fortunately, not coaching. It's bitter when you're watching games, but to me, the sweet necessity of being able to be here, help both my boys prepare for their football seasons, which just occurred. My youngest, he was a freshman quarterback, first year playing competitive football, getting his butt knocked around at the quarterback position. He did a magnificent job. But to be here with my oldest, going through his senior year, helping him prepare for his big year to put on a show, his showcase season. And he had a great year. And now being able to walk him along with my wife Nicole through the process of recruiting. And we went up to Concordia St. Paul, which is a D2 school in Minnesota. He's been to Western Illinois on a visit. We went to Valparaiso just the other day on a visit, which is a FCS school, Division One. And we went to a JUCO, which is the Division III JUCO national champions. There's only two divisions, 1 and 3, junior college football in the U.S. And this was the Division III national champions right here in Chicago, the College of DuPage. So he was able to get a variety of what everything tastes like and what it looks like, what it feels like, and kind of get an idea of what fit him. The thing is now, with NIL taking place, and of course still the JUCO transfers, and the transfer portal, which of course is the craziest thing that you would ever experience. That's just changed the landscape of football in general, where they typically sign high school juniors and get the commitments after their junior year, and of course they sign at the conclusion of their senior year. But if you're a late bloomer now, teams would rather have 19, 20-year-olders in the portal as opposed to a late blooming freshman as a senior who's still fresh, has a long way, a lot of things to learn, but still magnificent growth that could take place, especially with the right type of player that you're talking about. So for him, unfortunately, but fortunately, he's got a number, the few teams I mentioned that are excited to have him on campus. And so now we're next Wednesday is the signing day. So here over these next couple of days, we're going to be sitting down, putting our thoughts together, and he's going to be making the big decision. And I'm eager to see kind of, where his heart's at. And, but that's our job as parents, is to help him come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
And
Well, I was curious too, because I know you guys obviously are a very athletic family there, but multi-sport athletes as well too. Your boys played hockey, they played basketball, they played football, they did a little bit of everything. Like, what kind of a role do you think for any of those parents that are trying to walk that? All right, do I single sport focus, or do I have them play a little bit of everything? Like, what was your experience raising the boys, as far as what your philosophy for what sports to put them in was like?
Well, the skill of sports is all transferable. I mean, because what you do in one sport, you're definitely going to be utilizing those skills in another sport. Because trust me, when my son's out there playing football, you see a lot of the hockey, the contact up against the boards, digging the puck out in the corners, all that stuff becomes viable because, again, when it comes down to shake, rattling, and rolling, he can do it with the best because he loves contact. That's a part of his life. And even now with him playing basketball, he takes charges. He's in the paint, mixing it up with the biggest guys out there on the court, being aggressive. But it's all transferable because, again, you learn the foot speed of playing both football, more so basketball with the foot quickness, but this open field speed of playing football and understanding how to just contort your body just to be able to avoid hits. Those are things that are transferable to the game of hockey as well. But just knowing how to position your body, understanding how to bend your legs, getting those PowerPoint positions, just so to make sure not only can you keep balance while you're on a blade on a sheet of ice, if you can stay balanced and stay up in that situation, you can definitely have that good contact balance, when you're playing the game of football. So much of it is transferable. And I'd always tell people, we have one life to live, guys. Just don't restrict your kids only experiencing one sport, because there's so many different lessons to be learned in different sports. But the most important thing is the experiences and the friendships that you make. Those are things that no dollar amount can be placed upon, because I don't care what league you play in, how much money you make, you're going to talk about your good times you had playing with your friends as kids and all the different sports, all the different tournaments that you won, the fun memories of when so-and-so did what and did this at the water slide and peed in his pants. Those are the fun stories of what makes sports what it is. So just don't restrict your kids. You're only taking away the great memories that they should be enjoying because they're actually kids.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think we both echo that statement. And, this is a memo to all Canadian football coaches. Go scour the hockey rinks. Get some aggressive kids coming out to play football for you. Because guess what? There's a lot of them, and they're not going anywhere with hockey. So, but yeah, it's a great message to have. And I think that, one, hearing it from somebody who's not only gone through it, with your own kids, but obviously has a big voice in the matter of, look, this is where I came from. This is where my wife came from. This is what our kids are doing. And it's worked out well for all of us. So,
Yeah.
so again, great message to have. And, kind of transferring over, because obviously we brought you on here to talk some ball. So let's get right into it. And, we're talking about great stories. I think that one of the best stories from this last year just happens to have a Canadian spin on it. And that's the Houston Texans receiver, John Mechie.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll turn it over to you, Hank, but, how impressive has this comeback been for this young man with everything that he's gone through, especially knowing what it takes to play at the professional level?
Man, just the devastating injuries that he went through, first and foremost, just even the consideration of a young man going through that type of devastating injury to your lower extremity and being able to come back and have the impact, but also what he had to deal with personally as far as with cancer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, gosh, so many different things that this young man has had to go through during his journey. And the fact is, it just goes to show you that human nature and the fact that anything is possible just shows you just the gifts that we've been given as human beings. And we should always be thankful for that and give thanks to where it's needed. Because I remember for me back in the day when Teddy Bruschi went through he had a heart attack, basically. He had a stroke, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he still came back and played. But now to see Mechie go through what he's went through with cancer and having a significant injury. The different things that take place, and for him to be able to come back and have the impact that he had on his team this year, the motivation that he gives to people. The fact is, when you sit back and you say, man, there's something that I can't do, and then all of a sudden you see a young man like that who's in that room out there in training camp doing the same things that you're doing, knowing what he had been through in his life and in his journey, it definitely not only provided that team motivation, but just his leadership ability has impacted so many men in that locker room. When they talk about every man brings a gift to that locker room, you can definitely tell the way the Texans played this year, CJ Stroud, the number of young gifted players that they had on that team. You can definitely tell each and every young man had a story. Whether it was CJ Stroud and never seeing really spending time with his father, who's been in prison, to a young man like Mechie who has been through what he's been through, and to see the impact of him being out there playing in a playoff game this year, having an impact, moving the chains, doing the little things, blocking downfield. It just goes to show that when you have those bad days and you think that it can't get any worse, it definitely can. And to see this young man overcome the odds and to be out there embodying what he embodied and empowering those around him and making the impression on all of us in this world today, we're able to witness his comeback story. Definitely continue to look into that and definitely galvanize the energy and the power that he gave us and use it to make you the best version of you that you can.
Yeah, 100%. Even before, obviously the cancer diagnosis, when he got to the NFL, you look at his trajectory when he was at Alabama. He's a top receiver. He's in a receiving room with some of the best NFL receivers in the league right now. And he's the one who's kind of standing out as the guy. Catching for 2,000 yards over a course of 2 seasons at Alabama in the SEC, that's not an easy feat. He was on track to be a first-round pick before that knee injury happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about that, like you still picked in the second round, nothing to sneeze at. But you think about this guy who could have been a top 15 pick given all of the NFL receivers that have come out of Alabama the last 5 years, right? Now he has the injury in a bowl game, longer recovery time, drops into the second round, which is millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Then on top of that, now, we're in training camp. We're going through our physicals. Hey, by the way, we should go get checked out because there's something not right with your scan. So, yeah, 100%. I think that the message that a lot of people can go through, not just athletes, but people can go through, is that there's going to be a lot of shit thrown at you in your life. And your ability to bounce back and overcome a lot of this stuff is going to make you the individual that you are. And you're 100% right when you say it has a rubbing off effect, especially when you have a locker room like the Houston Texans who are young and impressionable. They rally around that. And I think that ultimately is going to make a lot of these guys stronger and stronger and stronger. You look at how successful they were this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they come back next year and they challenge for that number 1 seed in the AFC. So
100%. Well, you saw even 2 of their coaches, Bob Slovic and Gerard Johnson, both were retained by the Texans. Of course, they were given pay raises, but the thing is, it just shows you the excitement that's taking place. Iron has sharpened iron when it came to the Texans. And, just to see D'Amico Ryans be able to galvanize that entire organization coming back home and to bring, to have young men a part of it, uh, like the men that we name, of course, like the CJ Strouds, of course, who, what I mean? He's kind of the face of the team, but to have
Yep.
a young man with his type of story, with what he's overcame in Mechie's case, I think to me, it was funny when I was talking to a lot of people about, his journey. I think the one thing that really surprised a lot of people when I said that, yeah, he's Canadian, they were like, what? He's Canadian? Not all the other stuff, not all the other stuff that he's been through and all the great things that he's doing, not Alabama,
Yeah.
not the injury, not the diagnosis, from the physical. It was the fact that he's Canadian. And they were like, there's no way this kid's Canadian. He was great at Alabama. I was like, hey, Canada's making him like that now. So, hey, you're going to have to take heed and show respect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, the whole
100%.
family's got the Canadian connections there too.
Yeah.
Right? Older brother there, Royce, two-time Grey Cup champion up there with the Toronto Argonauts. So, yeah, they've got they've definitely got a athletic family going through there. And to your point, I really think that this year was all about establishing the fact that, guess what, I'm back at an NFL level. I can compete with the best of them here. Obviously, just getting on a field was a miracle in and of itself, right? A lot of people would kind of cap it off of, hey, that's a win. I'll take that. But I think he's got a real interesting opportunity coming up in 2024 here. Because you look at that wide receiver room, obviously you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell, two very young, explosive wide receivers. But then that third spot, it's going to be interesting what they do with Robert Woods there, because he's 9.7 against the cap. If they cut him, they do have an out for 4 million dead cap, so they can save money there. And I see him as someone who could seamlessly step up in that offense. And now you've got this three-headed monster of Collins and Mechie and Dell, and then CJ Stroud under center. So it could be a huge springboard as far as, all right, sat out my rookie year, got healthy. Now I'm back in. We're going to see kind of that Alabama version of Mechie when he hits the field this season.
You're 100% correct about that because, I mean, unfortunately, this team in North Florida kind of let that go, being the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they had a stranglehold on the AFC South, but all of a sudden they let this team from South Texas come up and take it from them. But the thing is, you're exactly right. It's like I can't say Kyle because it's like which Kyle, you know what I mean? But
big Kyle, little Kyle.
That's what we're making it easy for you. So you just say Kyle, and it encompaces everybody here. It's fine.
Everyone pays attention.
So I mean, but Kyle, you're right though, and the thing for me that I loved about how they constructed that receiver room was that they did bring in Robert Woods, and the fact is, you need that veteran leadership. I mean, even though you have a guy like Noah Brown who's been around for a number of years, of course, both of them had their injury issues. But the thing is, it allowed them to bring Mechie along slower than a lot slower than they normally would have to. Because if you have a team that lacks depth in that room, you don't want to rush a kid back out there because you want him to get his bearing straight, get comfortable, just kind of be comfortable in his own skin. Honestly, when you're out there getting hit, playing under the bright lights, not feeling nervous, because again, there was a long period of time between, his last game and playing, here in the NFL final. And so, for him to, as far as in this season, so for him to have been through everything that he's been through and now to be one of the most remarkable comeback stories in the NFL for this year was remarkable. But, definitely to have the likes of a Robert Woods and a Noah Brown there just to kind of help bring him along, kind of help coach him up on different things that he can try. Because again, when you're out there running at the top of your route and you're getting jammed, you want to make sure that you feel as comfortable and as sturdy, making certain cuts happen. How will I feel doing this? How will I feel doing that? You're out there in the heat of Houston, Texas in July and August in training camp. So the thing is, we got to bring you along slow because again, your body has to conform to all the different circumstances and situations that you haven't felt in a long time. And it was good that they had the right people in place just to surround him with experience and knowledge. And that's definitely what young players need. And that's why that room's going to continue to ascend in the trajectory that they're currently on.
Yeah. And, speaking of having the right people in place, we've got another big game that might be happening in a couple of weeks. So, Obviously, we're referring to the Super Bowl. We just had the conference championship games happen this last week. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, we're a Canadian podcast. How is this going to be tied back to Canadian? Well, there aren't any Canadians playing on either the San Francisco 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs, but we did a little digging and we actually have some tie-ins that actually make this a relevant topic and a conversation. So
there we go.
Again, kind of some fun little tidbits that we can kind of get into. But San Francisco, obviously, they've got some ties to the CFL with former players, either playing for them and coming to the CFL or vice versa. A couple of which, I think we kind of know very well. First, obviously, Ryan Thelwell, someone that you probably know very well, Henry.
Yes.
was actually drafted by the San Francisco 49ers, but never played for them. So obviously great tie in there, great receiver in the CFL. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of see the type of mold that an NFL receiver really is, right? We're talking about, the Houston Texans receiver with John Mechie. Thelwell was kind of on the same build, right? Like he was 6 feet, 200 pounds, 190 pounds, strider, good hands, and really kind of brought a full encompassing game, right? So, having a guy like that, like what was that like playing with a guy like Ryan?
Oh man, he was smooth. I mean, here's a kid from London, Ontario, who ended up at the University of Minnesota, a Golden Gopher. And I remember the first time I played against Ryan, I was with Calgary, he was with the BC Lions. And unfortunately, I used to hate Ryan there for a little, not hate him like as far as personally, but he always used to eat us up when I played in Saskatchewan, when I played in Calgary. But, I was fortunate enough that when he became a free agent, we were able to bring him on board. And he really gave us kind of that extra bit of juice that we needed to get us over the hump to win the 2008 Grey Cup. But a guy like Ryan was just a consummate professional. He brought his hard hat and lunch pail to work and steel toe boots every day. This guy had some of the more remarkable games. For Labor Day Classics, he put up 200 yards against the Edmonton Eskimos, and he had just some huge games. But he was always a guy you could rely on. He
Right.
always had that mentality like a quarterback. He could read defenses. He always knew where the zone holes were, and he always knew how to reduce his routes and run routes the correct fashion just to make sure that any DB won't pick it apart. But the thing is, he came to work every single day, and that's the reason why he had a long, illustrious career. A lot of success on top of that, and of course now it's transferred into the business world. And I mean, he's doing a lot of great things from a business standpoint as well. And I mean, it's hard to keep up with him because again, he's coast to coast now. Who knows? He could be in Ottawa, he could be in Calgary. Who knows where he is? But again, his work ethic, just like we mentioned, transferable skill. You can witness that now, which is how impactful he's been as far as in the business world. And it's just good to see. But yeah, he's one of my best friends and a guy who I keep in touch with all the time. And he always lets me know that, hey, I still beat you guys in that West Final when you played for Saskatchewan, but it was even better to win a Grey Cup with you in 2008.
Yeah. International man of mystery, Ryan Thelwell. So, again, nice tie into the 49ers there.
International man of mystery.
International man of mystery. So, next one actually suited up for both of these teams. So, signed originally with the Kansas City Chiefs, played a season there, and then went on to sign with the 49ers before he came up with the CFL. And talking about one of my former teammates, the big nasty Rob Murphy. And you never played with Rob, but you've had many battles against him, so you got to see him kind of firsthand what he was about. You talk about the personification of a nasty in the trenches lineman. Rob Murphy's face is right beside that description. So again, thoughts on Big Rob.
Man, that was one of the nastiest offensive lines ever. I mean, you guys would bring the juice. You had Jimenez on one side, Rob Murphy on the other side. I mean, and Kelly Bates in the middle. I mean, you guys were loaded with talent. Of course, Dave Dickinson, Casey Printers. But there was a reason why all those guys had success because of guys like Rob Murphy. I mean, to me, he was one of the more intimidating figures in the league because, again, no matter him being an offensive lineman, he still had that defensive mentality where he was going to come out and maul you like a tiger. And he was out there to eat. And I mean, those are the type of guys that you always want to play with, especially as a quarterback. He's going to do any and everything to make sure that defensive end who's paid to sack quarterbacks doesn't touch you at all. Your jersey's going to be clean at the end of the day, and he took pride in it. So, I mean, to me, he was one of my favorite guys that I never got a chance to play with, but I used to just sit back in awe at the way he would work it during games, because you knew he not only talked it, but he walked it as well. And you don't see many guys that can back it up the way he did. And to me, he was one of the all-time best. And I'm sure if he did play long enough at one point, I can assure a guy like him should be in the Hall of Fame at some point. And, again, he didn't play as many years as others, but I think at some point he should get the call.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And quick little funny story before we move on about Rob. So, again, I'm a 20-year-old in training camp, defending Grey Cup champions. So we've got, like, we're loaded, and I'm kind of trying to take all of it in, just kind of, being a sponge. And I made the mistake of showing up to a meeting in a University of Michigan sweatshirt.
Oh,
and
no.
Those of you who don't know, Rob attended that school in Ohio and didn't say anything at the time, but I could see him kind of staring at me from across the room as I'm sitting there trying to listen to Dan Durazio, one of the all-time great offensive line coaches, break down film. After the meeting, comes up, gives me a tug, pulls me aside, just says, "Rook, you ever wear that sweater near me again? I'm cutting the shit out of it in front of everybody." Well, let's just say that sweater came off right then. Sorry, Mr. Murphy. It's going back in my bag. You'll never see it again as long as we're teammates. So it's again, a very intimidating guy, but one of those good vets that kind of pulls you aside, doesn't want to embarrass you in front of everybody, right? So, but yeah, it was.
Kyle, I can only say that there's one Kyle on this podcast that did not do his homework before that meeting.
And you know what the funny part is? Like, obviously, I'm wearing my University of Ottawa garb here. So when I was in college, one of the rules we had was we couldn't wear any other team's gear during any of our meetings. And I'm like, oh, well, now I get to break that rule because I'm going, to a different team. If I had just stuck with, with the stuff that I learned in college, it would have been fine. But anyways, there was no harm, no foul. It was just one of those funny training camp stories like we talk about that always sticks out with me. But anyways, the last person that has some ties to the 49ers, probably the most famous, in both leagues, the CFL and NFL, had great success in both. And obviously you played against him many a time in the CFL, Mr. Jeff Garcia.
Yes.
And, you talk about an unassuming person. I think Jeff Garcia is one of those people where you look at him and it's like, there's no way that you are a professional quarterback.
Yeah. And
then you see him put the helmet on and watch what he does. It's like, okay, I got you. But maybe talk a little bit about Jeff and some of the rivalry games that you had against him.
Hey, and it's exactly that. I remember my first time, my rookie year in training camp, when I made it to Calgary, and I walk in because quarterback meetings always started with rookie camp. And I walk in and I'm thinking, okay, I was the first one there. I was there 30 minutes before our first meeting. I was not going to be late, be there first. Being a rookie, that's what it's all about. I sit down and I'm waiting for both Jeff Garcia, Dave Dickinson, and the other rookie quarterback to walk in. So, these two guys walk in and I shake their hands. One guy walks in with glasses. I shake his hand. I'm thinking, okay, who are these guys? The quality control coaches? That was Jeff and Dave who walked in. But you were right. I mean, whenever those guys stepped on the field, though, you know what I mean? You talk about big things coming in little packages. Those guys brought it. And I mean, Jeff, they called him Tiger for a reason, because you want to talk about a fierce competitor who hated to lose. That was Jeff. I mean, he's the type of guy, when you say a house is on fire, like, he'll just run straight into the fire and rescue whomever. That was his mentality. I mean, he was a work hard, play hard mentality type guy. And there was a reason why Calgary was always winning championships. And for me to be able to back him up and watch him lead Calgary into the Grey Cup in '98 against the Hamilton Tiger Cats and get that big last-second win on the last-second field goal in Winnipeg by Mark McLaughlin, and to see him right off into the sunset after winning the MVP of that game and heading back down to San Fran and playing with the Niners and having the impact on that team that he did, coming in, backing up Steve Young and finally getting his opportunity. I mean, Jeff was everything to me. He's still my guy. I keep in touch with him to this day. And even seeing him out there still doing some of the 49er broadcasts for their post-game show. I mean, he's still a vital part of their tradition and as far as their organization as he is in Calgary and in the CFL as well because of who he is as a person and competitor.
Yeah. Well, my experiences with Jeff were mostly as a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles here. And he started 2 playoff games for us. So again, just as likely to look like he could sell you like a used Mazda as he would be an NFL quarterback. But I mean, one of the most unassuming 4-time Pro Bowlers of all time. I would put him right up there on the Mount Rushmore of guys you don't expect to bring it like they do.
And you talk about having to fill in the biggest shoes imaginable. He inherits the job in Calgary from Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
Then goes to the NFL and inherits the quarterback room from the 49ers from Steve Young. So I mean, you can't really step into two more difficult situations than that. And I mean, he lived up to every single bit of hype that surrounded him at that time. So yeah, he was a lot of fun to watch.
Fun bit of trivia here, though. See if either of you know it. Jeff Garcia is the owner of one unbreakable NFL record. Do you know what that is?
Oh, man, that's
I don't.
A good one.
That is a good question.
Punt for a quarterback?
He has a 99-yard passing touchdown on his resume. So the best anyone can ever do is tie his record.
There you go.
Andre Davis with the Cleveland Browns.
Well, you know what?
That's pretty good.
Golf clap.
Pretty good, man.
Golf clap for Jeff Garcia.
Stumping the CFLers here. Look at me go. Little Kyle pulls
usually I'm good
through.
on that stuff. I'll just share one quick story with you about Jeff, just to give you
a quick,
realization of who he was as a competitor. We're playing in Saskatchewan, and again, Jeff's nickname was Tiger for a reason. We had a play called 60 Tiger. We go 3-by-3 empty formation, and we run quarterback draw. That's all it was. 60 Tiger was, hey, just give Jeff a hole. You're blocking the linebacker to the right, leave the one to the left free, because again, with it being 3-by-3, he should be removing himself. We should have a 5-man box. But Saskatchewan had this safety from Kansas State who was known to hit people named Mario Smith. Mm-hmm. And we're thinking, oh man, we're in the red zone. Ball's about the 25. We're thinking, man, all right, Jeff, just make sure you get your butt down. Now you're playing in Regina. That was one of the worst turfs known to man. We call the play. Jeff takes off. He's rolling down the field. All of a sudden, we see number 21, Mario Smith, trigger. We're like, oh, shoot, Jeff, get down. Get down. Jeff goes to make a move, and it's like he sees him too late. And all of a sudden, we hear the hit happen. Boom! And all of a sudden, Jeff stays down for a little bit. They go out there, check on him. He sprints off the field. His nose is like turned completely in one direction. Pat Clayton grabs his nose, pops it back in place. Jeff stuffs it with 2 things of tissue, runs back out on the field, and continues playing. I'm thinking, there's no way in heck I'm bleeding out of my noses, both nostrils, and I'm going to keep playing. But that's how different. That's Jeff in a nutshell. Like, he didn't care what you did to him. You can hit him hard, but you better keep hitting him because he's not going to back down.
Yeah. Well, that, again, you think about all the great quarterbacks that you got to be around during your time. From the Jeff Garcias to the Calvillos to the Ricky Rays, like all of these guys were so influential on the league itself, and you were a part of that, obviously a huge part of that. So it's really cool to kind of talk about these things, because now we look back, it's like that was kind of the golden era of quarterbacks in the CFL. So yeah, like what a time. But moving over to the Kansas City Chiefs now, obviously great ties with the 49ers. The Chiefs, obviously, they've got some connections to the CFL as well. Probably the most famous one that I think everybody knows, the story of Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. Obviously, offensive lineman from McGill, gets drafted by Kansas City. While he's playing a professional sport, he's also getting his doctorate and doing his apprenticeship, or internship, I should say, at a local hospital at McGill University. So, I mean, his story in general is just so incredible. And the fact that, 1, he made a ton of money playing football. 2, he's the first doctor to ever play a professional sport at the same time. And 3, he ultimately got to walk away on his own terms and now start the career that he actually wanted to achieve. So, that's one story I think we'll never see again, because think about how hard it is to do one or the other, let alone both. So I mean,
Simultaneously.
simultaneously, yeah. So he's such an inspirational figure for a lot of people just because of the work ethic that he had to put in to obtain the things that he did. So yeah, I mean, obviously his name was very difficult to fit in the back of a jersey, but they made it work in Kansas City. They made it work.
So
I think
for
it was like
all those seniors and juniors out there who are complaining about their 8 a.m. class, well, at least they weren't pre-med classes that you were doing there. Like, you don't have it that bad.
Exactly. I mean, his journey is, I mean, like you said, it's one of its own. It's one of a kind. And when they say football and sports in general, it's not about where you're from. Because again, if you're good enough and you work hard enough, you know what I mean, they will find you.
Yeah.
And here's another prime example of a young man who growing up as a kid had a dream of what he wanted to achieve in his life, and he did any and everything that he could to achieve the impossible. Because again, to make it into the NFL, we're talking about what 1% of all football players
Less
all
than
over
one.
the world get an opportunity just to play in that league. But now you're talking about a man trying not only to play in the NFL, but also to be a doctor who's working towards his degree and to actually become a licensed doctor during the case of playing in the NFL. Trying to hold on to a job year after year as an offensive lineman in the NFL is one of the hardest things ever, because they're drafting these young, crafty rookies who are making less than you and who are after what you do year in and year out. But your focus is not only on that 300-pound assassin across the field, war daddy on the defensive line who's got a wife and kids and has to make sure there's food on the table going against you, but also you got to go pass this exam and you and you got to go through this practice of actually becoming a certified doctor at the same time. I mean, you want to talk about achieving the impossible. I mean, this man did it. And the fact is, I mean, but you could always tell throughout the entire journey, his heart was always in the right place.
Yeah.
He was able to hoist the Lombardi, but when it came time to give back to his family, to his to people in Quebec and his province and the people that he loved, and especially during that time of COVID, how he hunkered down and made a difference when it truly mattered. And it just goes to show you that the perspective of being where you need to be at the right time and the gifts that you were giving, being able to achieve those, there will always be something presented where you can impact many. And look at the impact that he had on his people, not only from the game of football, but following that in the world of the medical attention that was needed, and the kind of the gift that he practiced to achieve perfection on. He was able to give back in the most critical of times in any of our lives, during the COVID pandemic. I mean, to me, it's a book. I hope they write a book on him, because it either has to be a book or a movie or something, because it's truly remarkable.
We're going to start writing today. We are making the Laurent Duvernay-Tardif story, and it's going to star Henry Burris as Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. Already done.
I can't speak French, man. My French is horrible. As long as my son can do a voiceover for me, because he speaks French.
There you go. We'll get him started. But no, obviously, hero of heroes. But what I was going to say is, how frustrating must it have been for that training and doctorate staff on the Chiefs to actually diagnose him with an injury when he's like, yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think if anybody was happy to see him kind of take a step back and go and do that heroes work in Quebec, they're probably like, fine, now we can get away with just misdiagnosing some stuff like we're used to. But anyways,
what he said, he's right.
But again, going over to another gentleman that you're familiar with, Hank, Mark Bullrigger. He had a lot of time in Calgary, had a very good career there, and then had a cup of coffee with the Kansas City Chiefs, and actually I think started for them at some point over the course of his 2 to 3 years that he was there. So I mean, you talk about the quintessential CFL receiver. We talked about Ryan earlier. Mark was kind of one of those blood and guts guys. Throw it over
Yes.
the middle. He's going to get tattooed by a safety. He's going to pop right back up and, first down. Let's go. So, maybe, let's talk a little bit about Mark and the impact that he had, on the CFL when he was there.
Well, he was a big receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, to have his height and to have his speed, I think he was what, a 4.4, maybe even a
Something like
4.3,
that.
maybe. But
Yeah.
he had wheels, and I think up until he had that knee injury when he was playing, like his speed was undeniable, along with that size. And when Calgary won, I think it was the 2002 Grey Cup in Montreal when they beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and with Marcus Crandall, and pretty much nobody gave them a chance. I think they either had a losing record or they were close to 500 or something
Yeah.
like that. But nobody gave them a chance to make it to that Grey Cup. But they caught fire at the right time, and it was all because of guys like Mark Boerichter, along with Travis Moore and all the wealth of talent that they had on that team. A guy like him, they just said, let him run and put it up and watch him go get it. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what he did. And even when he walked into Kansas City in training camp, again, they were like, okay, this kid's got good size, good stature. It looks like he can take the top off, but what can this CFL kid really do? But they were like, when Mark, that he got his opportunity to do one-on-ones and just his physical stature, getting off the line, beating the jam, and just stacking defensive backs and winning 50-50 balls and just flat out running by people and making plays. That's what put him on the fast track to be a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, because they were a team who needed, that speed. They needed some youth ability to bring some energy to that offense. And having somebody like Mark, I mean, that definitely was the icing on the cake for what that team needed. But who would have thought that would have been a kid from the Canadian Football League? And
Yeah.
fortunately, once he got cut, he had that knee injury. He got cut. He came back and played with us in Calgary. And he was still a great player, but he just wasn't that guy like he was before he left. But he was one outstanding, as far as teammate, just a great guy. And he was one heck of a player to play with. And it's just unfortunate that, he didn't get the chance to continue playing much longer because he had arthritic complications with his knees.
Yeah.
It was always something that you have to, that he had to continue to care for, because for him, he just wasn't the same when that happened.
Yeah.
When
But
I was doing a little bit of background on our friend Mark there, turns out he's a bit of a cult hero in Kansas City, because
Yeah.
pulling up all of his stats, and obviously he had the big year in 2002, 20 catches, 420 yards, 8 touchdowns. So he has this breakout season. And then there's this giant thread of comments and all of his highlights posted on there of Kansas City Chiefs fans saying that they've never forgiven Dick Vermeil for not utilizing him in the offense the following year, and they buried him and this, that, and the other. So apparently he's a bit of a folklore legend out in Chiefs territory these days.
Yeah. And do you think that they could use a receiver like that right now, given the woes that they've gone through? I mean,
100%.
You talk about what Kansas City needs to really, because again, like obviously they're in the Super Bowl, but there's always that one thing that's been missing out of that offense this year. And this is exactly what we're talking about. This big receiver who can get down the field and catch a ball at its peak instead of letting the defender jump over top of them, which is what every Kansas City receiver outside of Travis Kelce has done this year. So, I mean, Mark was, again, watched a lot of him, didn't get to play against him, but he was so fun to watch, especially when you're getting into the CFL as a teenager, striving to get to that point. And it's like, all right, well, that guy's as big as I am right now. So I got to make sure that I'm either going to get faster or I'm going to get bigger, because I got to compete with somebody like that. So, but the last one, he's probably got his fingerprints more closely on either of these teams that anyone does with ties to the CFL. Longtime Hamilton Tiger Cat Tim Terry.
Yeah.
He's the director of scouting for the Kansas City Chiefs at the current moment. And you take a look at how many draft picks that Kansas City team is starting and rotating in, and you can say, golf clap for Mr. Terry and the work that him and his group have done, because my goodness, are they stacked with cheap draft picks that are allowing them to pay Patrick Mahomes $70 million a year to run around and throw the ball like he has been. So again, Tim Terry, great CFL player, maybe even better NFL executive.
Well, when was the last time you could realistically even say that the Kansas City Chiefs had a top 5 defense? Like, not in my
Yeah.
lifetime. They've always been a run and gun team. So the fact
Yeah.
that they're hitting on so many of these young, impactful players, the McDuffies of the world, the L'Jarius Sneeds of the world, like it's a testament to the work that he's doing out there for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, even like Bolton, the middle linebacker from
More.
Yeah.
Missouri. I mean, it's like
He's
they
phenomenal.
oh he's sideline to sideline, and
Yeah.
like to me, he was like one of the unsung heroes for that
Yeah.
team. When they wanted, when they wanted to. Well, sorry, throughout this entire season, and even
Right.
last year when they made their run. I mean, he was just insane. You know what I mean? But little did you guys know that Tim Terry and I, we both went to college together. We both played at Temple together.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I go to Canada and I'm playing with Calgary, and Tim comes to Canada for 1 year and wins a Grey Cup. And he's like, man, this is how easy it is, Hank. He's like, man, I should be up here taking all Grey Cups from you. You know what I mean? So it's like he came up there for 1 year. And when I played with Calgary, we played Hamilton in back-to-back Grey Cups. Unfortunately, in '99, I tore up my knee in a game against the BC Lions at McMahon Stadium on a brand new AstroTurf, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Went to
I
make a
still have
cut.
scars on my elbows from that stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's like you still have like war wounds from playing on, outdoor carpet.
Yeah.
And but I tore my knee, tore my ACL in '99, and of course I had to sit in the press box and just watch us get shellacked by Danny McManus, Darren Flutie, and just the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Joe Mumford and Tim Terry coming off different bookends, just giving Dave Dickinson and Mike McCoy the worst nightmare that any quarterback could ever imagine. And, again, like I said, he came in there 1 year, won a Grey Cup, and he was like, this is it? It's this easy? I was like, man, I hate you right now.
Yeah.
Of course, he always makes fun of me whenever we talk, and he's just like, hey, don't let me go there. Don't let me go there. I'm like, please don't, man. Please don't. You're going to have me crying. But typically every year at the combine, we'll meet up. We'll have a drink and just kind of catch up with each other. And of course, it's unfortunate that he didn't get an opportunity here during this hiring cycle at one of those, GM opportunities. But, he's the type of guy where his time is coming. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like just as you mentioned, the impact that he's had on that organization with his scouting ability, his prowess, regardless from Green Bay to the Kansas City Chiefs. Just look at his track record and the type of guys that he's bringing in. His opportunity's coming. He's too good of a guy. He's too good of a person. And really, sometimes, your time will come at the perfect time when it's the perfect situation for you. And it's like right now, he might want to be somewhere, but it may not be just the perfect fit for him.
Yeah.
But when it does happen, it will be the perfect fit for him. But he's the type of guy where he'll put in the work to make sure that it does come true. And he has his wife and his family, and they'll keep the right perspective. They'll get through this. And again, right now they're playing for a Super Bowl. So, man, how hard is it really? Another Super Bowl.
Yeah. What I was going to say too is, here's a little bit of trivia that Kyle, you might know because I mentioned it before, but I'm interested to see what you think, Hank. Do you guys know who the GM was of the Hamilton Tiger Cats in 1999?
It wasn't Bob Obilovich, was it?
It was not Bob Obilovich. It was another Ottawa U alum, though.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, what's his name? Oh, I think you got me on this one. You got me. Goodness.
Kyle, any guesses?
Nope. This was one of the ones that I did not click right click save as when you spewed it out to me there. So I will cede my time on the floor, sir.
Yeah, of course. I'm talking about University of Ottawa great CFL Hall of Famer Neil Lumsden.
Neil Lumsden. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dang
so
it.
yeah, you know what, Neil? I know he's going to be listening to this, so I'll put in a good word, Hank. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Hey, I love Neil. I love Neil. Neil's my guy.
Yeah,
Gosh, he got me on that one. I was thinking
yeah,
like, who was it? Who was it
yeah.
back then?
He tells the story all the time of how he put together that team and basically had to blow it up right after because of all the salary cap implications that they had with
Oh
everybody.
yes.
So
Yeah, as you can see for me, 99, I kind of wiped that memory from my
yeah,
memory bank.
yeah, 100%. No, I would too. I would too, 100%. But
Oh, he
those
did
are the
one heck
time.
of a job putting that team together. That was a great
Exactly.
team.
Yeah, it was. And again, the last time that they've ever won a Grey Cup. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Wow.
Who knows?
Wow.
And
They
we
were
say it's
there
that.
for a good time, not for a long time.
You say it's that easy. Tim says it's that easy. It's been 25 years since the Hamilton Tiger Cats have won a Grey Cup in an 8 to 9 team league. Think
And
about
just
that.
it, like for me, I think about when on the unfortunates happened, and I didn't get brought back after the 2013 loss that we had in the Grey Cup at Saskatchewan. And
Best thing that ever happened to Ottawa football, Hank.
wow, and just to think that none of those Hamilton teams won it because we were right on the
I
doorstep.
know. Yeah.
And then they lost in 14 with the Brandon Banks play,
Yep.
unfortunately, and then we took over from there. So
Yep.
wow.
But you know what? Golf clap to Hamilton for letting Hank come win a Grey Cup in Ottawa. Let's go.
There you go.
So last little tie-in to from the CFL to the Super Bowl is actually current. And Hank, I know that we kind of joked about it yesterday, but I figured it'd be kind of fun to talk about. Zach Caleros. I think that with all the attention that's been spent, on the press box or on the luxury box that this Kelsey family and the Swifties have all been in, we saw a little CFL connection there last week with Mr. Zach Caleros sitting high and tight in
Best seat
the
in the
top of the
house.
suite, best seat in the house. So, for those of you who don't know, Zach Caleros is a University of Cincinnati alum, and he was actually the quarterback while the Kelsey brothers were both playing there. So I think he's got some good ties with the Kelsey family, and wouldn't be surprised to see him again at the Super Bowl supporting the team. And who knows, maybe he's schmoozing with Brett Veach and Tim Terry, and maybe getting a shot at the NFL.
It's one of those things when they were talking about the Harbaugh brothers, them saying who has it better than us. Nobody. I think nobody has it better than Zach Caleros right now. I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking about just his connections from being a Cincinnati Bearcat, and being able to have his hand in between Jason Kelsey's legs in college, and now be able to throw to his brother, but now he's able to enjoy the fruits of that labor of now being able to party with the family, and just be able to witness that from up close. And it's good to have friends in high places doing big
yes.
things, you know what I mean?
And he's also won a few Grey Cups along the way too, but
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
but
Yeah, so
yeah,
between all of them there, you got 3 Super Bowls and then 3 Grey Cups, right? So
Wow.
they
exactly.
did pretty good, those Cincinnati Bearcats, let me tell you.
See, now they got to get the Kelseys to come to a Grey Cup now when
There you
Zach's
go.
playing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let's
Jason
get
wants to take his shirt off and go diving through tables and bring Taylor Swift up here too. CFL is there for it.
But
Let's go.
Yeah.
but this is why we got to get on each province to get the tailgating back on the table with Canadian
Please.
football.
Yeah.
We
Thank
need
you.
it. We need it.
Thank you.
We need it. We need it. So
Thank you.
anyone who is a member of government, Neil Lumsden, please put in a word to get tailgating legalized and open to the public, especially in Ontario. Neil Lumsden. All right. So I know that we've been doing this for a while, Hank, and obviously, you've been on the recruiting trail. You're busy doing a lot of stuff. We know that you're tired, but a couple of things that we want to mention before we let you go. Obviously, this has been a great conversation. We're so happy that you're able to join us, but you've also got a couple of cool things on the go right now as well, outside of the coaching, outside of the recruiting trail with your son, outside of supporting all your former teammates. We got a website that you just launched recently. Yeah. So take us through that a little bit.
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff taking place right now in my world where, I wanted to make sure I continue to give back. And for me, I needed that platform to kind of work around that would give me that opportunity to keep people updated with where we are, what's the latest taking place. Because, while I wasn't coaching, I was broadcasting for the Chicago Bears. I'm training quarterbacks here locally, not only high school quarterbacks, but collegiate quarterbacks who are preparing for the draft. But also, it's kind of my vessel to keep in touch with everybody because, again, to me, my friends and family in Canada, my friends and family here in the U.S., there's so many people that are out there that I want to keep in touch with. For me, it was kind of that centerpiece, that heartbeat of what's going on with me, and a way to kind of channel everything that's taking place so people can keep up with what I'm doing, where I am. So that's why I was like, hey, regardless of just having social media, I'm old school. I need a website because for me, I can put all my content there, centered around that, center the focus there. And then again, even with the other websites that I'm creating, and there's another couple that are going to be coming up here soon, but everything will still center around the henryburris.com
Yeah.
Brand, because again, it's who I am as a person. And I want to make sure that I, created a website to kind of reflect just that.
And that's great. I mean, one, the giving back part is, obviously who you are, what you've kind of made your hay on outside of your skill on the field. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you're able to kind of, do this as well as all these other cool things that you can add to this venture, it just makes it that much more special and that much bigger in general. And if you ever need to cross promote, hit up Kyle with Dine Sports, because I'm sure that we would be happy to do anything that we can to get, obviously the word out up here, anywhere that we can in our networks, and really kind of, pump that out as far and wide as can be.
Absolutely. All of our listeners, go and check out henryburris.com and all the latest and greatest from Hank's world there. Because as he said, social media, that's a new wave game there. Websites are where it's at these days.
Yeah,
exactly. Old school. That's what I'm talking about.
we want Hank to come back, Kyle. So just
hey, I definitely will, guys. When something big happens, hey, I will definitely come back on and update everybody as far as what's the next big thing happening. And when it does happen, definitely have me back on. I would love to come on and make that announcement.
Yeah, we love it, brother. But
you've got a standing invitation anytime you want to come back. Perfect. You want your own weekly segment? We'll give you a weekly segment there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Consider it done.
We'll have you be the less controversial Aaron Rodgers to our Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bring out any
that Epstein Island talk, all that. No, I don't go there. No.
Bring out any of the conspiracy theories you want to get off your chest. Bring out all the beliefs you have. Whatever you want. Air it out on the 1867 Sports Show.
You want to feud with late night TV hosts? Go nuts there.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
let's do it.
Yeah. On that note, hey, brother, thank you so much. And we'll definitely be keeping in touch with anything that you've got going on. And we're looking forward to see where you end up landing, because any team that gets you is obviously going to be very lucky. And let's get that Super Bowl ring to add to your Grey Cup collection.
Hey, let's do it, guys. And hey, thank you so much for having me on. And I had a great time. I look forward to the next time we get to hang out again.